Okay, cool. So according to this, we are recording. So good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Cheryl Lentz, and we have an amazing opportunity for us today. I have scheduled a call with Dr. Vania Bright from the Writing Center, and she is going to go over all of these resources that you guys have been struggling with to deal with the things we've talked about in class, particularly passive voice. You guys love that one. We're going to look at life balance in there. We're going to look at resources, because the goal is to get you there faster. So I'm going to step out of this and be here in the background and let Vania take over. And then if we have further questions, since we don't have people here during the live session, a little disappointed, guys, that we'll be able to still converse with her, I hope, to get your questions answered. So without further ado, Vania, it's all yours, and we are so grateful for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. And then do I have to do anything to hit my screen? Oh, show my screen.
Yeah, show your screen. Yeah, guys, we're working with a new technology that Walden's just used called Microsoft Teams. So as we flounder through this, we have done Skype and Zoom and Adobe, but this is new for us. So it'll be an interesting adventure. So be a little patient with us as we figure this out.
Yep, and I think I just figured it out. How exciting. It's all pretty much the same. Ooh, there's a whiteboard. This is the one I want.
Yay.
So
I love your face in the picture. Love that.
Let me, and actually, I'm trying to, oh, there we go. Let me just go to.
And I can see your slides, by the way, so.
Okay, good. Okay. So, first of all, it's already been mentioned that I'm Vania Bright. I have my PhD in sociology from the University of Minnesota, and I am now a Capstone support editor in the Writing Center. And so I'm going to spend an hour trying to touch on some things that would be really helpful in the early or in the phases of writing a proposal, or once you're finishing your prospectus and getting ready to start on your proposal. So let's just jump right in. And hopefully if you have any questions, let me know, and I can answer those questions. I'm going to skip over that and move straight into. First of all, I wanted to point out what the Writing Center is. We have two offices. The first office is the Office of Writing Instruction, and the second office is the Office of Academic Editing. Once you, there's two offices under the term Writing Center. So once you have an approved prospectus, you are no longer eligible to access services from the Office of Writing Instruction. So the Office of Writing Instruction has coursework, including course papers, including looking at your course papers. So if you didn't have an approved prospectus, you could make an appointment and have a paper review with a writing instructor. Once you have that approved prospectus, there are assumptions made about you and your ability to write as a scholar. And those assumptions are that you can do it on your own with feedback and help from the team that you've got with you. So it's correct, right? All of them have an approved prospectus at this point, right?
And Alvin just got his one last week, so all 5 of my students, yes, have approved prospectus. That's awesome.
So now that means every single one of you fall under the rubric of the Office of Academic Editing, which is the second half here. And that is when you are working on your proposal and your final document. We are more focused at this point on completing it, on writing it, and on the formatting of it, learning that APA formatting, learning Walden guidelines for APA formatting, etc. You work on content with your chair and your committee. Excuse me. But what an editor does at this point, you no longer have a writing instructor, you have an editor or a team of editors that can work with you. So we're focused on how to complete something so that it flows and is legible, how to write it in the first place, and of course that formatting. That means we're more focused on editing, revising, and fine-tuning. And eventually you get to a form and style review. I'm not even going to talk about that today, because right now the most important thing is where you're at, which is the transition from being a student and saying, look, I read all this stuff, I can prove to you that I read this stuff, here is this information, to a scholar, where you are saying, I know my topic well. These are the things I need to share with people who are reading my stuff. You don't need to give the kitchen sink at this point, except maybe in your lit review, but you have to do it very, very creatively. What you need to do is as the scholar and as the leader of your topic at this point, you need to be presenting just what you need to present. Another thing that is really important once you move out of the Office of Writing Instruction and into the Office of Academic Editing is it really is about self-editing. We have fewer services, fewer student-facing services for you at that point, because the assumption is that you can write. You're this far for a reason, and it is your responsibility to become a self-editor. And so what the editors have done, and I'll switch over to the document, or a different document in a second. But what we've done, our website, is we have put together a plethora of resources to help you become a really, really strong self-editor. And the reason this happens, it's not like Walden is dropping you and saying, well, you're done, you're almost there. It's because for you to move into the moment of being a scholar as opposed to a student, it's important for you to be able to self-edit your work. So going forward, you won't even have this team together with your chair and your committee member and a URR looking at your stuff. It will be you trying to present your ideas to, say, an academic journal or to groups that are interested in your writing, etc. So it's really important for you to actually get to the point where you are editing your documents on your own. So we have a lot of information for you on how to do that self-editing. We don't leave you alone, but we give you resources, and it's expected that you'll take them and run. So, but if you don't know what they are, you can't know how to find them, or what they are, or even what questions to ask in the first place. So that's what this is for, is to show you what our resources are so that you can say, oh, right. And then the best point is that we editors have office hours every week, every day, Monday through Friday, in the morning and in the afternoon, where we sit and we wait for people to access us through the chat, and we will answer all of your questions. We want to help you. We're not going to write your paper for you anymore, or we will edit a little bit, but we're there for you. So anyway, we'll talk about all of that as we move along.
I'm excited because I didn't know that writing editors had office hours like we faculty have, because I noticed that I'm a ghost as well. I have faculty hours Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, and a very limited number of students are, guys. But remember, your tuition has helped put these resources, so add them to your weekly plan and simply take advantage of 15 minutes once a week or something, particularly when you're having a skill like passive voice. You have resources, and so now you know Dr. Vania, and I want you to connect with her.
Yeah, and you can say, so you can connect down with us too, and you can say, you know what, I'm really struggling to make this into active voice. Can you help me? And it can be one sentence. If you put a sentence into the chat, just copy and paste it in, we will totally work with that sentence. We can't edit an entire chapter, but we can help you get to the point where you're able to make the changes on your own. And that's where you want to be anyways. You want to be that self-sufficient scholar. Gosh, I was going to say one other thing, which has now left my brain. I'm getting over pneumonia, and for some reason I cough every morning. That's it, though. I'm fine. It's been like a month and a half, but I cough every morning.
Oh, no, trust me. I've had bronchitis, and the cough goes away in about maybe 3 months, so hang in there.
Yeah. Okay, so, the first thing I think, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a couple of things, and I'm just going to try to do a broad brush quickly of some stuff that is really kind of key when you're writing your proposal. And the first one is chapter 1, and we need strategies for writing that chapter 1, right? The one I'm really going to deal with chapter 1, I'm going to talk about passive voice a little bit. I'm going to talk about
Vania, I need to jump in just for a moment, because this is the DBA program. So we have section 1 and section 2 and section 3. I'm sorry, I should have made that clear at the beginning. So we're in sections, but that doesn't matter, guys. The information is still the same. It's just put in a little bit different places. We have 3 sections. A dissertation has 5 chapters. So just so you understand the difference.
Right. Thank you. I'm so sorry. So I will make the language change, and I'm going to send these slides to you. I'll make the changes in the slides too, so that they don't say, because I have chapter 1 for this, and then chapter 2.
Understand, guys, the PhD program, and I think the EDD program works on chapters. The DBA program works on sections. Right. So just so you understand, same information, it just goes in a little different places. That's all.
Yep. And I'll make those changes when I send these to you, so it won't be confusing when they look at them later.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, so strategies for chapter 1. So you need to make some pretty significant decisions regarding your problem, your purpose, your research questions, the framework of the study, and your significance. So I don't know how you teach it, but oftentimes for me it's hard to really fathom the concept of this first part of the section 1 without first also delving into your lit review. Because as social scientists doing social science work, what we're doing is we are looking what other people have done regarding the topic that we're doing, and we and then we want to build on that. So our problem, until we have done our lit review, can be sometimes hard to write because we know what we're interested in looking at, but we're not always sure what that problem is. I guess what I would say in this instance is, because as an editor, I am not, I do not do work with content. Sometimes I do. As a social scientist, I'll see things and I'll say, maybe you could tweak this, talk with your chair. So it's never going to be an editor. An editor's not going to come in and help with content at all. But instead, what I want to say, what is really important for chapter 1 is to work with your committee on these key elements. Now, this is something that I hear a lot at residencies and dissertation intensives, is the level of frustration that can come with the back and forth that is an inherent part of writing a dissertation, where you write something and then you send it to the people who are guiding you and they say, do this, do this, do this, and you get it back and it gets frustrating, and then you've got to do all these changes, and then you send it back and then you get more feedback. And so the one thing that I really like to say as you're building these documents is working with your committee on these key elements and seeing all feedback as important and necessary. It's not a bad thing to get feedback. This is the one time you are going to have scholars really, really precisely looking at your research and guiding you via a mentorship role on how to make it better. And that's the whole thing about editing too, is editing is about making it better. You can't edit anything that you haven't put down on paper. And it's the same with chapter 1 or anything, or I'm sorry, section 1 or anything that you write. You can't make it better if you don't seek other individuals' input into it. So it's not about being good or bad at what you do. It is about continually taking this document to the next level over and over and over. So definitely, when you're working with chapter 1, work with your committee on those key elements above. We do have I'm going to skip over. There is we have a bunch of webinars. I'm going to talk about a different webinar now that I've had thought a little bit more about it. But I did want to point out, this is a hyperlink, and it's a hyperlink for a proposal kit. And basically, it's an online kit, but it's a series of web pages that will help you systematically put your proposal together. And that's really what you want to do as much as possible. Academic writing is the most boring writing in the world. There's very little creativity until you get to the editing part. You have to be very, very precise and this is the problem, this is the purpose. It's not the most exciting prose to write, but the proposal kit, and there's a hyperlink here, can really help you do that in a systematic way, because systematizing what you do is going to be incredibly important, because there is so much out there. And in 2019, even a decade and a half ago, when I was getting my PhD, the amount of information that is available to people writing their dissertations today online that you can easily access is so intense. So being organized is really important. I'm going to talk about organization a couple of times too. Okay. I did want to just bring in the concept of active voice sometimes. So, and this is what I want to talk about active voice is, so you're doing a project and APA prefers the use of active voice over passive voice. So, so it's okay, write however you write. And then if if your chair or your committee member, or maybe you talk with an editor, you've identified that you write in passive voice, it's important for you to learn what it looks like and how to edit it out. That's the point of editing. So you have to write the way you write. We all have a voice inside our head. It comes out however it comes out, and you can't edit what's not on the page, so you just have to write. But then once you write, you need to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are so that you can edit out your weaknesses, right? So let's say you have a lot of passive voice. Passive voice would be something like, if I look at this first sentence, so right now it says, per APA 3.18, remember that APA prefers the active voice over the passive. I maybe would say, so passive voice is where we take APA out, where it's not even clear who's preferring it. So passive voice might be, it is preferred to use active voice over passive. And at that point, we don't know who's preferring this. All we know is that, and the point is kind of the same, but it's stronger if we say APA prefers. The same is really important with all of your process documents, right? Or I'm sorry, all of your process sections, like what you're going to do in your study. So, and it makes for a really strong document. When I edit for active voice, from a person who is not using active voice, some people are taught to use third person, like the researcher will collect data in a certain way. They're taught to not even put their own self into the document. It all needs to be third person. That's not the case with APA or Walden. The word I is preferred. I will examine the relationship between these two variables, for example.
Correction there, but let me jump in for just a minute, Vania. Yeah. My students are notorious for hearing me say that I'm not a fan of first person. That I try very hard to, I know APA requires it, and occasionally it's a fabulous solution for passive voice. However, what I'm trying to avoid is what they hear of having first person every single sentence, or having it in every single paragraph. And so the role of the researcher section, for example, I find very difficult to write without using first person, and I agree with it. However, I'm really a fan of trying to limit the use of first person so we're not having again, first person every sentence. So I want to give them this a possible solution, but I really think it's far more professional if we can get the first person out as much as possible. So
sure. So where I always look for and edit in the first person is, so first of all, one should never write the researcher. If you have to refer to yourself, you must say I. You also can't say we, because unless there is an actual we, it must be I. But I think it's important to note that there are very few times when you would actually discuss yourself, right? So in your methods, when you're saying the method is, or this quantitative study, because you also have to remove your anthropomorphism. So you can't use, so if you're doing active voice, you can't then turn your study into an actual actor. But you can eventually. So what I recommend is in the places where you do have to use I, to show that it is you actually doing the action, which will be when you're talking about the flow of a section, and when you're talking about the actual research that's being done. I did this, 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 and this. What we suggest you do is maybe in the first sentence, use the pronoun I. Once it is clear that it is you that is doing the action, then you can shift back into a little bit of passive voice so that it isn't just peppered with I over and over and over. So that's the recommendation that we make. But again, different places, what they've and different chairs and what they've learned over the years are also going to be something that you have to pay attention to. So this is really an interesting moment to again throw in that it really is, and that's why as editors we always say talk with your chair. So let's say it came to me and I put in too much and I was going to edit something. I'd probably put in more I than your chair would put in. Then your chair, the final say is your chair's say. That's just how it goes. I can make editorial recommendations, but it's really not a discussion between me and I can, give APA rules and stuff like that, but rules are sometimes made to be broken as well. So it's really important the final say in and how, like, for example, how much active voice you would use would come down to your chair giving you the guidance. Always, that's the way it goes. So,
well, and Vania, I want to be able to let know that even then, it's the challenge that a lot of students have is you have a lot of people's fingers in this pie, right? You have 8 different levels of review, and everybody's got an opinion. And the students are sometimes a little intimidated that somebody with a doctor title is telling you to do something, and how dare they not do it. And so I want to make sure for those of you listening to the recording, it's about balance. Dr. C is not right on everything. No is not. Every single member brings something, and we come together as a consensus because there's all kinds of different ways and subjective nuances to writing. What I'm hoping you're able to get is to sift, sort, and separate through options that you have and through the brilliance of things that you want to do, but you remember that no one thing, and you can't overuse anything. It's a matter of balance. So I don't want you to discount things that other people tell you. I want us to look at it as like, why are they telling you that? Not just that they are telling you that. And these are some of the amazing techniques that Dr. Vania will add to your repertoire so that we can find balance. So wonderful job. They're going to say like, yeah, Doxman C's been telling us this stuff for years. I'm like, I'm telling you guys, it's not just me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's true. So anyhow, so we do, it would be totally, and to have, we don't like repetition either. APA does not like repetition. And so the other thing is, like with the I pronoun, you do want to find a way to let your reader know who is doing the action. That's the important part of active voice. And it can become a really strong section when it is obviously clear and when you're taking ownership of your research. But at the same time, in your introduction section, you would not have I in there at all, most likely, because even if you have ideas about that, about the topic, those ideas that you have shouldn't come into play at that point. It should be written in a very scholarly way. Okay, so that's active voice. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, and this is going to get us into the resources that we have available for you. But what I wanted to touch on was with the concept of alignment. So now, again, alignment is not, as an editor, it's not something that I necessarily work on too much. However, we do have resources. If you're struggling, this is what I find, is we've got editors that have been here at Walden. We don't leave our job often once we get our job, because it is a really good job. And what we do is we see so many documents, hundreds, thousands of documents. And we identify areas that people need help on to bring them to the level of self-editing. So we have a website that is full of information. We're going to go over to that website for a second, but I just wanted to have the links on this page so that you can see, so you can get straight to the first two things I'm going to look at. So the first thing we have Smart Guides. I'm going to go to Smart Guides and I'm going to show you what our Smart Guides page looks like on the internet. And then I'm going to go straight to a specific Smart Guide, and it's a Smart Guide on alignment. So we're going to look a little bit at alignment through the lens of the Smart Guide, because the Smart Guides are designed to be very quick resources that you can access, read through them. They're maybe 2-3 pages tops. There's a lot of visuals and arrows showing how to do a specific thing. So our Smart Guides this is a really good link to have, the Smart Guide link, because if you're struggling, maybe we've written a guide on it. So I'm going to escape out, and I am going to find our Smart Guides page. And are you still seeing my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, good. So I guess actually I'm going to back up a little bit, because we have a half an hour. And what I wanted to do is first of all, I'm backing up. So like I said, there are 2 sides to the Writing Center. Once you have an approved prospectus, the Writing Center main page is no longer, the resources that they list on that main page, they have one button on the Writing Center main page that says, head on over to academic editing. So good, hit that button if you go there. But also, I will put this link into the slideshow that I send.
Oh, good.
To our main web page, which is the portal to all of the resources that we've put together to help capstone writing students.
And guys, don't worry, when she sends me the slides, I will post the link to this video. I will post the slides, everything she have it, you'll have in the classroom. Just give us a couple of days because sometimes it takes a little while to get all the stuff back and forth. So we'll get you.
Yeah. Yep. And so what the first thing I would say is that we are available to you. I've already talked about our chat edit hours. If you go to this main web page and scroll down just a little bit, got a lot of words there right now. What you're going to see is
I see only the PowerPoint slides. Not, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking, wow, I'm not seeing something. So I think we're.
Yep. Let me go here. Let's share a new screen. And share. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm sorry. So
there we go.
This is the main website for the Office of Academic Editing, or Form and Style website. And so this is, and if you, so first of all, there's a little tab right here. If you click on that tab right there, it's going to open up our office hours, and you just put in your name, your email, your program, and your question. You hit start chat, and that means there's someone there right now. We actually could ask somebody a question and we'd get a response back. And we're not going to do it, but someone is sitting there waiting for your question. So keep in mind, that's one way to reach us instantly a couple times a day. And then, but the other way that you can reach us is via, and this will be on it is on the slide show that I'll be sending, is our email, which is editor@waldenu.edu. And that you get a response within 24 hours. So our main webpage is this. This is where you would find tons of information. A little bit overwhelming. A website can be, because it's like, whoa, I don't know what to do. So what I like to do is just get people into it a little bit. And the first thing I'd recommend is over here on this side panel, a little bit down, we are going to find seems to have been moved. My apologies. Hold on. No, oh, I'm sorry. I hit the wrong one. There we go. This is our main web page. Same thing. And then our office hours are right down there. These are the times that we staff it, and then the button is right below that. So that's our office hours. I was hitting this button instead of the button I needed. So right here up at the top, we have, you can, if you want to compare your document against the template, you can click on our templates button, or our templates. And the first thing that's going to pop up is the DBA. So here's our doctoral study template, instructions for using it. If you're doing consulting, that one, and or portfolio, that one. But most people use the DBA, doctoral study template. So if you wanted to compare and say, oh wait, or the template is full of information on formatting as well. So if you are writing in the template and then you want to go back to see what was in the template, you certainly can. Another thing that I wanted to show you is our smart guides, and that was the link. Smart guides are really short guides on specific issue areas that we've noted students in the capstone phase struggle with. So it's a bunch of guides on a variety of issues. So we're going to open up, actually, I'm going to open up 2 because they're the 2 that I use. There's actually 5 that I use a lot of. But for example, here is the alignment language in problem, purpose, and research question. So if I click on, and we were going to briefly touch on the concept of alignment, we have a smart guide. It's 3 pages long. And, and what it is I'm just going to scroll a little bit, is it gives you kind of a step-by-step on how to start this process, how to make sure you've got that alignment going. So it says, begin by writing the problem statement. And it tells you exactly what those 2 things should include. And then we give an example. It is okay to look at examples and to learn from examples. Of course, it has to be in your own writing, but it is always good to see an example of a problem statement because you can follow that same format. And so then we have some things that we would ask you to check regarding just that paragraph. Then we would ask that, then the next step would be to write a research question that's related to the problem and the gap. And so again, a bunch of questions that are going to guide you to how to do that so that you stay in alignment with what you've previously written. we have an example, and then we have some stuff to check. But it's basically a process document saying this is how you're going to achieve alignment between these three important parts of your section 1. And again, with information to check at the end to make sure that it is included. So, and then how to look for alignment among all three as well, like that last check. But it has a lot of guidance and just kind of bullet points. We tried to make it so it would be really easy to access the information. You can go bullet point by bullet point, do the process as we recommend, and then check your process at the end using this guide. So that is one example of one guide. We've noticed that some people do struggle with that alignment between the problem, the purpose, problem statement, the purpose statement, and the research question. So we wrote up a guide to help students with that process. But again, the key here is that once you move beyond prospectus stage, the assumption, and really in any doctoral program, the assumption is that you've got some basic skills down and you are able to find the resources that you need on your own to write the next step, which is the capstone. So that's why we have all these resources for you. So that is the alignment guide. You know what? I think maybe, oh, if I go here.
Shannon, do you think you could send us one of those guides? Not all of them, because I want them to teach them how to find them, but could you send one of them when you send the PowerPoint slide so they can know what they're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just write that down.
Because I'm thinking that, I want them to have the ability, guys, for you to use this, but our goal today, as Dr. Vania has suggested, is to make you self-sufficient so that when you're working at 3 in the morning, you don't have to wait till office hours the next day or to send us emails and wait for a response because we're in an asynchronous environment. That's our job, is so that we can teach you how to find this stuff so you can find it when you need it. But let's give you a little bit of a leg up so we can make it a little bit efficient until you get those habits in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could send that one. A couple of other ones, some are bigger and some are smaller. I'm just going to point out some that I use a lot for students.
Oh, good.
I'm a developmental editor, and so it's called a Capstone Editor, and so I spend a lot of time with students who are really struggling with passing, say, the proposal phase, and they really need to work on their writing. So some of the things that actually the one that I send to students the most is reverse outlining.
Oh, this is interesting.
Okay, so reverse outlining. So we have a reverse outlining one. The other one I just wanted to highlight, since this is being recorded, is correcting common errors in the template table of contents.
We have this come up all the time, and oftentimes because of the corruption element, meaning you're making a copy of a copy, and every time you send it to someone and they send it back, stuff happens. That we suggest that you actually download a new template and copy and paste it into it. Is that not a recommendation, or is there actually a template to fixing things? Because I know the table of contents causes most students an angst, particularly guys when you get to the end, way after the proposal. I doubt you'll get in trouble with it right now, but it's coming, right?
Right, it's coming, and that's why I wasn't going to click on it. But this one is really good because it teaches you, because the thing with the table of contents is that it's all linked to the headings and how you tag them in the narrative document themselves. And so it teaches you how to do that. And it also, when you're copying and pasting in, what it does is it shows you how to turn on what we call the Pilcrow, which is it's in here. I'm going to.
See, guys, Doxy learns things too, by the way. That's why I'm paying close attention here.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to share a different screen for a second. Hold on. I wish I could just share my screen and not.
Aren't we spoiled by technology? We always want more, right?
I know, right? Okay, so I was thinking about what I was going to talk about with active voice, so I had put in some information on active voice here. And but if we look at the top of this toolbar right here, first of all, if you look at when I write, I've got a little backwards paragraph here. If I put my cursor there, I can make a bunch of backwards paragraphs. I can insert a page break, for example, and It's going to show that I have inserted a page break. Let's say I have 2 spaces in a place. Every space is a little dot. So this is when I have the Pilcrow on. This little backwards P, which looks like the backwards P down here, is what turns it on. If I turn it off, you have no idea where that page break is. And so when you're working with when you're copying and pasting into the template, what you want is to have this Pilcrow on, so you don't.
Could you spell that? Could you type what that is? I've never heard it called anything before. You say Pilcrow is what they call it?
Yep, Pilcrow.
No kidding. I've never heard a name for this in there. I just call it the paragraph thing. So yay.
Yeah. So
Pilcrow. Huh. Who knew?
Yep.
See, guys, Boutique Docs see a thing. I'm a professional editor as well, and so this is a new one to me. So never knew it had a name.
Yep. So that's a good thing. So if you're copying and pasting into the template, you definitely, in order to not get rid of any of the formatting marks, you definitely want to have the page break on. And a page break's easy to insert. We also have in the template section breaks, because we have multiple ways that we are that you are to use pagination. And your margins change from your front matter to your actual narrative. So section breaks actually are the ones that you don't want to delete, because then it will change all of the formatting for your pagination and for your margins.
Okay, I want to stop you there for a minute, Vania, because
Yeah.
what I have told my students all the time, guys, what you're dealing is the concept of macros. This is computer programming that's behind the scenes you cannot see, which is what screws up the template that you cannot see and how it all links together. So that's what I want to do, is that this is computer programming. So don't beat yourself up when you struggle with it, because there's an awful lot that you can't see behind the scenes of what table heading and what level 1, 2, or 3 heading, and how it goes back to the table of contents, and all these things that frustrate you and or will frustrate you coming attractions. So these are the things that you understand, that you can figure out what's behind the scenes, but that's why we call them a template. If somebody sat down and did computer programming language to create the template, when you screw it up, or when we change things and we highlight things and we delete things and we add things and we corrupt it, the computer gets stupid and stops, and then it doesn't work anymore. And you need to have a working template when you're submitting to your committee, when you're submitting to the IRB, and we're submitting to the dean. So now you understand all the things as to why. So Vania, you're brilliant. Thank you.
Oh, right. Well, and so having that Pilcrow on is good. So actually, another thing that I'll point out, we're just kind of like organically doing some neat stuff. I'm going to go back here to. So now, can you see the Smart Guide?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to the Smart Guide in a second, because I also wanted to show you. And again, I'm just making notes of links to add. Okay. We also once you pass your prospectus, it's like a new phase in your career. It's your final student phase, but you're kind of in between the student and scholar phase. But one of the things that we do have for individuals who have passed their prospectus and are now kind of under the well, whatever. Once you're under the Office of Academic Editing, we have a thing called the Walden Capstone Writing Community. It's not, it used to be a little bit more developed with more webinars, and I'm not sure the future of it right now. We do, however, have a writing clinic every year. Now, my computer is saying that there's poor network quality. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we're doing okay. You have a little scratchy stuff that comes in every now and then, but you recover. So yes, it's just the benefits of digital technology, but we're cool.
Right. Okay, cool. So anyhow, so if we go back to the Capstone Writing Clinic, and again, I will give you this link, the Capstone Writing Clinic of February 2019. This is an incredibly handy bit of information. So first of all, for the Capstone Writing Clinic, we recorded everything, and we had editors come together and give presentations on things that we thought students would want an hour-long presentation on. So one is transitioning from coursework, but the second one is the one that I wanted to show you. There's also one on self-editing and preparing for form and style, but up here is using the Capstone template. My colleague Joe Gredler, who is an alum, a Walden alum, but is also an editor here at Walden, he ran this 1 hour recording, so you can view the recording or read the transcript, but sometimes it's good to view the recording. And it's a step-by-step explanation of how to use the doctoral template. The thing is even though it's not totally related to your topic, if you take some time to study the template, that will save you hours and hours and lots of frustration. It will just save you all of that later if you learn to use the template now. So I highly recommend to people to view that recording. It's 45 minutes with 15 minutes for questions. So take some time and learn how to use that template. Watch it, and once you're strong on that template, it can become all about the writing, and you don't have to worry as much about the formatting. That's the idea with it. So I wanted to show you that link, and I'm going to send that. The other thing I was going to show you.
You say that again. You came through garbled. One more time.
Okay. I said, and I was just kind of closing out, and I was going to say the other thing I was going to show you on the website, and then I'm going to go back and we're going to talk a little bit about synthesis. But this starts our discussion on synthesis. It's one of my favorite Smart Guides. So I'm going to click on Smart Guide from our main homepage. There we go. And then I'm going to go down to the Smart Guide. It's under paragraph level writing. It's reverse outlining and using the meal plan to revise.
I know the meal plan, but I've never heard of the reverse outlining. I have a feeling I might do this with PowerPoint with my military students, so I'm intrigued.
Oh, yeah, so reverse outlining is awesome. You can't reverse. So the key point to doing a reverse outline is you have to know the main points for every paragraph, which is why it's good to also, I actually use the meal plan as an editing tool. And when I'm reading a student's writing, I look at a full paragraph and I say, what is the main point of this paragraph? Where's the evidence? Did they provide analysis? I'm using the meal plan in my head all the time when I'm looking at a paragraph. So now a reverse outlining is the idea here. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit, is that a lot of writers will start with an outline when they write. But sometimes when you're writing, you're kind of like ideas come and then you put another idea and another idea. You might move away from your outline a little bit. Hopefully everyone does start with an outline. That's very important. So when you're doing reverse outlining, what you would do is you would type, here's an example. You would type the subheading of whatever it is. The subheading here was leading with intercultural sensitivity. And then you would write the words paragraph 1, and then you would write the main point of what paragraph 1 is. You'd look at paragraph 2, and again, write just the main point of paragraph 2. Here, a person has written needs revision, better topic sentence maybe this doesn't quite capture the main point of paragraph 2. So you would go through the entire subsection and write down the main points of each paragraph. Then what you have is a bird's eye view of all the main points of and to understand the flow of your document. So that's reverse outlining. We also just kind of one by one steps to reverse outlining, because once you have all those main points, you can look at them. I actually, when I was writing my dissertation, I cut out, printed it out, and then cut every paragraph and taped them on a wall. And then I started moving them around, like trying to get the right flow. You do what works for you. I did a little bit of reverse outlining as well. But here's some more steps on doing the reverse outlining. Because then you want to ask yourself, you look at your outline, your main points, and you write, first of all, you might think, is this a main point? Second, you are going to make sure that the order of your main points, does that make sense? Is there a logical flow? You're going to look at your sentences that you've put down for your main points, and do they make sense? Etc. So there's about, I won't go through lists 1 through, is it 7 or 8? 7. But that is reverse outlining. I think that, and if I was going to design this, I didn't design this one. The most important part of reverse outlining, though, is using the meal plan. Because what you need, and what makes for a really good, strong sentence is, as a writer, It is important for you to tell your reader what's coming. And so that's the purpose of the main point sentence, because you tell your readers straight up at the beginning of the paragraph, now I'm going to tell you about this. Of course, you don't use the first person, but what you do is, I've got these weird things popping up on my computer screen. What you do is so in this instance, you don't say, I'm going to tell you about the principles of constructivism, but you say the principles of constructivism are made of core elements. And then the reader reading this paragraph knows that the rest of this paragraph is solely about the principles of constructivism, the core elements of constructivism.
Guys, this should be review for everything she's telling you about all the feedback that I'm talking about in there. This should be a, oh, we've heard this before. Yay. Thank you, Vania.
And it's good for, for scaffolding to hear it again and again and again. This meal plan, I wish I would have had it when I was writing my
Exactly, me too.
Because what's beautiful about it is you say, okay, here's main points, and then here's evidence to support that main point. And what I like about this smart guide in particular is sometimes in the abstract, it might be hard to understand how to write a meal plan paragraph until you've done it a bunch of times. But here's an example of what a main point looks like. Here's an example of what evidence looks like. And then here's an example of what the analysis looks like. The analysis can be kind of hard. When I write my analysis sentences now, generally what I do, I ignore the L, by the way. Generally, the L and the A are kind of the same thing. So I'm not too picky when I'm writing. I just want to see when I'm reading something that is like say a lit review where there is a lot of evidence or whatever, I'm just looking for some analysis at the end. For the writer, that is you, to come back in with your voice and say, okay, I've told you what the main point is, and I've given you some evidence, and this is what you need to take with you. So that's what the A and the L are. It's you're telling, you go back into your voice and you tell the reader what they need to take with the next step, or what they need to take from the evidence that you've just shown them. So for example, the A here is these learning activities or shared inquiries cause learners to gain access to their experiences, prior knowledge, and beliefs. So that person writing this, they went up and looked at the evidence they provided, and then kind of gave a brief summary, really, of the main point in the evidence, right? And then we're ready to transition into a new idea. So anyhow, I like to show this smart guide. I like to send it to people a lot, because if there are some, and this is super important, because whatever your topic is, it is huge, right? And many people have written on it in a variety of different ways, and even the most organized person, it will have problems somehow synthesizing in such a way to present it in a new, through your eyes.
And let me ask you to define synthesis, because many of my students are struggling, and I know we as faculty don't always agree of how many sources to use, but guys, synthesis is definitely more than a one source book report paragraph. You need multiple. I like 3 at least. Most faculty rubrics have agreed to at least 2, but synthesis is definitely more than 1.
Yeah, synthesis is more than 1. That's why I like this paragraph example too, is that this as well, is that it is an example of synthesis. So learning is not a passive activity. Not one person that we could, so maybe we got that information from the first author here, but a lot of other authors have said the same dang thing. So there's a lot of authors listed here. And then the next statement also has a couple of a variety of authors. So what this is doing is this is saying, so what we know about this writer is that they know enough about these various authors to write statements. So no one's writing, Hefner and Friedman found that a learner constructs knowledge when he or she actively attempts to interact, yada, yada, yada. Instead, we've taken the author out of the sentence, the original author, and put it into a more generic sentence, because we know that multiple people have stated the same thing or have research findings that have found the same thing.
Okay, so here's a question, Vania. I get this from students all the time. Doc C, how do I know when I'm done with my lit review? And your answer is, as you smile.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, like you're never done, right? Because there's always going to be new, but also you are, that's a really good, you're done when your chair says you're done. Maybe
Ah,
it's not the answer that you want, but really, it has to be, you have to capture the what everything that's been written on that subject. And that takes time, and it takes a lot of brain power. But the thing with writing a lit review is if you miss one of the important um, writers or concepts, and then you do a study where that is missing from your study, the reliability and the validity of your study just plummet. So I don't know. I mean, what do you say? When do you say they're done with the lit review?
well, a lot of it is when you start having a redundancy. So when you're doing research in the library, right, and you're starting to see, and you look at people's references list and you look at their abstracts, and you start seeing the same folks over and over, and they're all quoting the 5 top dudes, the 5 top things, the controversies. You keep tripping over yourself, and you start seeing that there's all of that. Then you know that you pretty much, if everybody's talking about everybody else, now you seem to have a little bit of a consensus of going, wow, this is there. So when I tell them to look at the references, I tell them to not only look at what you found, but look at what they found. And you're going to
Yeah.
see a lot of these similarities, provided there's currency. And that's the biggest thing, is you have to be in the know. I like using the 9 planets. If you're still talking about Pluto as a planet, you're not in the know. And
Yeah.
people in this field of astronomy, it's like, know that you're a little bit behind the times, and that's the worst insult you as a scholar can be. So when you start tripping over the same names and the people that you're reading, they're saying the same things, and you get a pretty good idea that you pretty much have everybody's been invited to the party.
Yeah. Right. Yes, exactly. And so that's a good answer too. And it is a long process. And you'll do it at the proposal, and then you'll probably want to add to it before you publish it in ProQuest. I don't know what you recommend, but it's like to be
As
as
timely as
accurate as
possible. I tell them about Google alerts and all the things right
possible.
up until the point they publish, because by the time you get to ProQuest, it's usually 3 months. It was 6 months or longer for us years ago.
Okay.
Now it's
Mhm.
about 3 months. And so think of how long between the time you finish your research and the time you publish it. Could be anywhere between 3, 6, or 9 months. And then it's another 3 months to publish it. So by the time you make your debut to the world, you may already be a year behind the times.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important that you are current at the day of publishing, and as current as you can. So when you go to these symposiums, you're not bested in discovering that suddenly Pluto's been voted off the island and you didn't know. So.
Right. Exactly. I just I'm going to go through some other things just quickly on chapter 2. Okay. Well, not chapter 2, second half of section 1, which
Thank
is
you.
your list. And so lit reviews are really hard. And what we want is synthesis rather than summary. And we're going to talk about synthesis, and I am going to touch on that just briefly. So your goals are you want to teach your readers about your topic. You do not want to be proving to your chair that you've read everything. That's being a student. Your annotated bibliographies are a thing of the past. They're for you, but they're not to give up to other people to read. At this point, you need to move beyond an annotated bibliography and be synthesizing. That means getting multiple sources into a paragraph together, and it's really presenting to the world how you see the state of the field, and the major themes that you see coming out of all of the research, which is hard to do in the proposal phase because you're still learning. And so any struggle that you have with this process is normal and natural, and it gets easier. And after you've published it in ProQuest and you have your DBA, then you'll be like, oh, now I get it. But it is a process of struggle to do that synthesis. I just wanted to point that out. We did, so to present that full picture, I did put in a little bit about the saturation point, the number of sources, not a total number of sources, but it really is about saturation. You want to make sure that you include studies that support your focus, but I see a lot of this in new writing, no studies that oppose the focus. So I recently saw a study on iPad use in in education in elementary schools. And I've seen a lot of critique of iPad use in the last year, scholarly critique of learning processes and how iPads impact that. And that was completely missing from the study. So as the person who is going to be an expert in this area, it's very important for you to know who supports what you're thinking and what you found in your lived experience, but also who's opposing what you
Yeah, I like to tell them the good, the bad, the ugly. Your point is not convinced or attached to the outcome, but simply giving all of these as the detective to give the proper context. Because if you have all the answers, then we don't need your study, we don't need you. And so you want to pose these controversies, these holes, these gaps, these inconclusions, these arguments, so that you have the justification that we need your study on one of those points. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Right. So the last thing that I wanted to do then is, and I know we're at top of the hour, but I have a few more minutes. That's okay. Fine. That's fine. Okay. So the last thing I just wanted to do is really kind of tease out a little bit. And this is something that takes time. We editors can help you work through the concept of synthesis more, but to think about the concept of summary compared to synthesis. And so it's really that bottom bubble on here where a summary of an article, you wind up, if you say so-and-so wrote this and they, so sometimes when I see, when I'm editing a lit review, I will see basically an annotated bibliography. A student will say, this is a theme, and then every paragraph has one author in it. And it also will have the methods that the author used. It'll have the N, the total number of people that were studied, whatever. It has all these extra details that are actually unnecessary at this point. It might be necessary if you're talking about well, whatever.
I'll give you an example to help here. I had a student who it was important to know, because the challenge they had was that there were too many studies done with too small sample size. They finally found one with a large sample size. And so the number of participants became valid because of the point they were making to the validity in terms of size. Most of the time, however, you don't need to give that book report. This is what they said. This is how many people. This is the method. Designs guys sound familiar here? What we're looking for, because they'll see at the end of their paragraphs to me all the time, I'm constantly saying, so what? Why do we care? Why does it matter? And what does it have to do with your study? Because the point isn't just to give me the context, it's to justify we need your study. And if you have all the answers, that means we don't need you. And they get a little bristled at that.
Well, and moving to that space of being able to do that is a really difficult transition to do. So it's necessary. You've got to get there to the point where you can hear people say, so what? Because as a scholar, that's what you're going to hear for the rest of your life.
I try and turn them back into that quintessential 4-year-old. And for parents who have that 4-year-old, they're like, really? I'm like, yes, because you're constantly asking the question why so often that when you get to the end and there's no more why, now you know you're done. And they're like, oh, so I turn them in that curious 4-year-old and keep asking why, because I have to know why they're telling me this, not just listing a book report, because they constantly see for me, so what? Why do I care? Why is this important? What does this have to do with the price of tea in China? So this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, at least not in my classes. So
what I would say is you've got your purpose statement and your problem statement. Most often your purpose statement, I think, is, you can use them both. Even your research questions. Before you write your lit review, look at those elements and circle the keywords that you are going to use or did use to identify your research. Those keywords then become the themes or the subheadings under the lit review. And so it's really, so instead of getting, because you've got to keep yourself up at the bird's eye view as opposed to getting mired in all of the stuff that's being written, all the neat details and all of these variety of studies that you're reading. A lot of those details you don't need. What you need is to know how it fits into the theme and how it fits or how it fits into your research problem or statement, whatever, right? So what I recommend people do is when they're writing their lit review outline, basically use the keywords that you are using to search the library material. And then you've got the top headings for your lit review. And then it becomes easier to slot various writers in. Because and you'll see where the researchers, like when you put in various keywords, where do they pop up? You kind of know where they pop up as well. So that's just something I like to say. I wanted to, I didn't put it back into review. I've got a lot on. I'm going to send all of the slides, even though we're not going to cover all of them.
They knew that this was just going to be pieces, and the point of being better today than they were yesterday, to add one more light bulb that turns on, one more mastery of some point, knowing that they need to go and do things like this a couple times during the week, a couple times during the term, to keep moving forward. Because if you do a little bit each day, it becomes easier than trying to do the marathon 24-hour, stay up all night and do it the night before it's due. So
totally. Also, what we have is a literature review matrix, which is got a link to here. So if you, this is not how I am not organized enough to be able to organize my literature this way, but some people have done this and it works really well. And so it breaks down the author and then various elements of the article. But you'll notice, and this is really cool, is that every article is going to have these main components. It's going to have a theory or a conceptual framework. It's going to have research questions. It's going to discuss the methodology. It is going to talk about analysis, and it's going to have conclusions. People are going to talk about implications for future research or practice. And that's exactly the document that you are writing. So, so you are basically writing something that will look a lot like, it's not edited. Those documents are also, when you see a published article, it has been edited hundreds of times. So you got to keep that in mind too. It's not an easy process, but it is a process. So anyhow, this is a link to the Lit Review matrix. If that is helpful to you in
this will be interesting. We use a Word document that I've suggested them for exactly your keywords. Is put the top 5 things, put it next to your computer, and when you do anything else, you look at it, because if it's not in that paper, it's not anywhere else, and so they can keep focused on not writing and going off down rabbit holes and shiny objects. So, and
it's so fun to go down rabbit holes.
It is, and they get stuck, and then they start looking at asking me, well, should I put this in? And I always say, what does your document say? Because it's not up to me. It's up to the alignment. If it's in your problem and purpose with those keywords, then you can go down that rabbit hole as far as you want. But if it's not there, might not be a good use of your time. No. And so I do have one question, though, before we wrap up in there. Are we allowed to have you come back to the class maybe next term?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I don't know what the deal is, guys. This is a new concept that we've been doing. I've always have visitors from the Writing Center in my classes once a term, and I love you guys coming in, but they were very basic stuff. And so this hire an editor for the hour, I think, is amazing. So guys, what I want you to do, and hear me, for those of you, I'm going to require this in the classroom. At this point, you are going to write a summary of at least 3 things you've heard from this video, and I want it posted in class for us to talk about. So if you get to this slide, you will do your homework and you will let me know, yes, Dr. C, I listened to the whole thing and I'm going to do my homework. There's purpose in everything I do, I promise. So Dr. Vania, we are so thrilled. I have learned so much. You have no idea the notes I have here. This is awesome. I wish I would have had you when I was going through this.
Well, yeah, and so I've got some additional resources on a slide. I'm going to kind of take these slides based on what we discussed and make sure that it's very clear how to reach us editors. We do want to talk to you. I had 4 people in my office hours yesterday, and it was so exciting.
I think I might actually make that a requirement too. You guys want some bonus time with me? I think going and actually trying out these office hours, and passive voice seems to come up all the time. Go talk with her, go give her a sentence, go work with her, get some ideas and bring them back to the classroom. So that's a really good, make your chair happy by doing a little extra here. I'm just saying.
Anyhow, this is, this just scratches the surface. That's the thing with 1 hour, it really just scratches the surface of the resources that Walden has created. And this is one of the reasons that I am so pleased to be a part of Walden's Writing Center, is I didn't have this when I was writing my dissertation.
No, I didn't either.
And I mean, there was no editor, there were no funds to hire an editor. I had to figure it out by trial and error. It took me 10 years to get out. I also was not from academia. I did not, like my family was not, I didn't know how to write scholarly voice. I had no idea. I had to, by trial and error, figure it out. And so what Walden has done and what the editors have done over time is we've created this amazing resource of how to write your capstone. And so I've scratched the surface on what we can do to help you. So each of you will have different needs. You can write to us and say, okay, I'm struggling with this. What resources do you have? And we will send you a bunch of resources saying, why don't you look at this and this and this and let us know if you have questions. So
and the last thing I will do is the one conversation I will not have with my students until they graduate, because they all ask, well, why are we doing this? It's like, well, once you finish your doctorate and your dissertation, we call it a doc study in the DBA.
yeah.
This is same process is going to go forward when you start publishing and you participate in conferences. And guys, I just published my 43rd, yes, that's 43 book last week. And it follows the same processes here that you're doing. And so there's nothing new to learn. If you master it here, you earn your doctorate, then the fun stuff comes when you get to speak at all these conferences and publish all these books and do all these cool things. This is the price of admission. So I want to connect the dots that we're not telling you this to make your life miserable. We're telling you this because these are skills you're going to use the rest of your career.
True.
All right. Well, Vania, you have been so kind to spend your time with us today, despite coming from pneumonia. Oh my gosh, feel better soon. I will share this gladly with all of my students to be able to show what she's offering you. It should sound really, really familiar. And now you've got another person confirming why we're doing this to help you move forward, because we're all invested in your success. She's part of the Walden family. She doesn't even know you yet, and she's invested in your success. So go check her out. And thanks so much, Vania. We're so grateful for you coming today. All right, I'm going to hit the unrecord button here in just a minute. Stop recording.